approximately 19 and a half years. I am just elated to be hosting such an outstanding team of authors. This is, keep in mind, this is being recorded. It will go into the archives of the African American Museum and Library for generations to come. It will be live from now and forever. So you are making history, all of you, my guests, and also all of you that are viewing or listening to this event. Before we get started, I know you're very eager to meet them, but I'm gonna slow it up just a tad bit to tell you a little bit about this institution. We are a research institution for African American history and culture. We opened in 2002 and we never looked back. We've had a lot of challenges, but no challenges like we had in 2020. And you all know what I'm saying about that. But we survived. We're getting better at it. And so AMLO shut down for over a year. We're so excited just to be in the building. And now, even though we're only open at 25% capacity, but trust me, we have regulars that they just come by and get the temperature taken. They get their hands sanitized and they want to hug us, but we have to play social distance, so you can't hug us. So we do these virtual hugs. We have our followers that continue to support us, even when we went to virtual events. So my Meet the Author event that we're doing today is something we've been doing for years, but since 2020, we had to do it virtual. Now we're going to open up, we're still going to do virtual as well as in-house. This institution has 4 departments. We have a library, which has over 16,000 books on African American history and culture. We have a rare book collection. The oldest book is 1802. It is, this book is not written by an African American. It's actually a journal of a Navy captain. And he talks about an African American who is, he says, he calls the cook. I prefer to call him the chef. Okay. And you know why. So, with that in mind, also understand we're a non-circulating library. My librarian who is on this event, and she's acting as technical host along with Marco, library assistant, Danielle heads the reference library as our librarian here. Our rare book collection is extensive. It is not on show here, but we do bring out some of that collection at some time. Also, let's move on to the archives department. We have close to 200 collections like Maury Turner, who created the script, comic script, The Wheat House. We have also Ron Dellums, when he was in Congress for 23 years. We have his collection here. We have Congresswoman Barbara Lee's. We share her collection with Mills College. We have the legendary Motown designer Henry Delta Williams, who is not from here, but came here when he was 7 years old and went on to Motown and to create one beautiful designs. We have hosted Martha Reeves here and also other superstars. Now, let's move on to my latest department, which is the seed lending library. I'm sitting in the seed lending library. The seeds here are free and to the public. So you come in, you get your seeds, you take them home, plant them in small gardens or large gardens, whatever, and we hope that you bring some seeds back. And that's why we call them Seed Lending Library. Last department, the museum gallery, where we host some traveling exhibitions, but most of the exhibitions are curated in-house. So now, with that brief, I want to show you some slides of the museum. And so Marco Frazier, my library assistant, is going to take you on this short virtual tour. Enjoy. Marco, it's on you.
Okay, welcome everyone. I was on mute there, and here we go.
Greetings and welcome to the African American Museum and Library. My name is Marco Frazier, Library Assistant, and I will be your tour guide for today. Greetings and welcome to the African American Museum. Currently, you're standing outside of the African American Museum and Library. We're located in downtown Oakland at 659 14th Street in the city of Oakland. Our building is an Andrew Carnegie building. It was built in 1902 with funds from Andrew Carnegie. Currently, you're standing outside. For many years, there was a debate as to what would happen and what would be the future of this building. Scholars eventually got together and came up with the idea of housing the African American Museum and Library in this location. In order to do that, they had to find someone to come and rehabilitate this building. This building sustained a lot of damage during the 1989 earthquake. As we said, this building was built for $50,000. In order for this place to become safe and become the African American Museum and Library, an African American architect was found, and they came in and did all of the work. They restored it to its natural habitat to the tune of $11.2 million. So the building was built for $50,000 in order for us to come into this building and have it safe, earthquake safe, and retrofit it, $11.5 million. Today, the African American Museum and Library has 4 departments. You're looking at a picture of our first department here, which is our newest department. This is the Seed Lending Library. So this department actually started out in our hallway in the card catalog. So we had a wooden box, one of the old school card catalogs that we used to search for the cards to search for books. That served as our actual Seed Lending Library, until the idea to expand it by our museum project coordinator, Vita Silva. And this is now what our Seed Lending Library looks like. So we have dozens and dozens of different seeds that people come in and they can check them out, take them home, create their own gardens. You're now in our archives department. The archives department is different from the reference library in that everything that you're going to see here is one of a kind. Everything is original. With our archives, we don't take copies of anything. We have over 160 collections here that document African American history. Some of those collections that we have here, I'll show you some pictures of in a moment. But we also have in those collections things such as the Black Panther newspapers. We have those. We have different entrepreneurs, African American educators, and people come from throughout the country to actually view those collections that we actually have here. Many of our collections have now been digitized and our photos have been digitized. So we have over 160 collections. In those collections, we have over 70,000 photos. Many of those collections you can see online. You can go onto our online Archive of California page to do research there, or our Calisphere page, which houses many of our photos as well.
These are some of the photos in our archive collection as well. As I said, we have the Black Panther newspapers. These are photos up here from our Black Panther Party collection. The first African-American school teacher, Ida Jackson, she taught at Prescott School. And then the other pictures here we have are of Henry Dalton Williams. He's a Motown designer who has designed for people such as the lady here, Martha Reeves of Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, and also Diana Ross and the Supremes.
These are some photos from
now
the panels that you see here are from our museum mural called A Journey of Promise, done by Patricia Montgomery and Daniel Galvez. There's a total of 42 different stories on these panels. Talks about everything from slaves to the migration period, educators, politicians, and Oakland institutions. We are now in our museum gallery. The museum gallery is where we have both temporary and our permanent exhibition. We are now in our museum gallery. The museum gallery is where we have both temporary and our permanent exhibition. Photos to my left are from exhibitions that have been curated here by our former curator. You see Revolutionary Grain, which was done for the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party, and also the Griots of Oakland, talking about youth and their stories of living here in Oakland. To the right, you will see Visions Towards Tomorrow. Talks about the history of African Americans in Oakland, beginning with the 1890s. The photos and things that you see there come from our archives department. Some of the highlights that you will see in our archives, from our archives, include artifacts. Some of the artifacts that we have up here include a Pullman Porter insignia that was found in the Cypress Freeway rubble. As you go along, you will also see we have touchscreen panels here that have different interviews on them. So there's snippets of full-length interviews from our archives department that our previous curator had done with different citizens here from the city of Oakland, talking about everything from migration till their everyday life.
And that is going to do it for this portion of the tour. I will now turn it back over to Vita Silva.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Marco.
All right.
You know, you even now, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that brief little tour of AMLO. Now, for the main attraction, before we get started, I'd like to take just a little more of your time. And Anise, can you join me, please? I need to talk to you before you introduce your authors, okay?
Certainly. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Great. This segment right here, I kind of call up close and personal. And I'm not going to take too much of your time because I know everyone, such as myself as well, are just anxious to get to the authors. But I want to ask you, how did this book conceive? The vision that, how did you, I mean, to have all these outstanding authors and pull them together, can you just tell us how you did this? How was it conceived?
Well, Ron Montgomery had this idea, and he's going to talk about how the book came about. So I'm going to let him go ahead with that, but just want to say that seven of us joined him in this adventure and this calling that we felt we needed to present what was seen at the various sites for the protest march that happened after George Floyd was killed. And we wanted to get this message out and chronicle the history and make sure that there was room for dialogue and for folks to mull over what was going on and see what was going on and hear so many different perspectives.
Well, thank you so much. I was just, and people were asking me because they saw the lineup. And they said, well, I said, well, I can't tell you, but I tell you one thing I can say. If you tune in, chime in on May the 7th, you'll get all your answers. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let's get started so we can get introduced to our very special guest.
All right. Thank you so much for having us. We're really pleased because, as I said, this was exactly what we hoped would happen, that organizations would have us come and we would be able to share our work, share our ideas, share our lives, and create a dialogue in order to help people understand and help people think about what they might want to do and to create change. And we are talking about meaningful change that's lasting change. So in our book, you're going to see the recent history and what our hopes are for the future as well. And with that said, we're going to have we have 7 of our authors here today. One of us couldn't be here, but we have 7 of us and we are excited to be here. And I'm going to turn it over to Ron Montgomery, the originator of this project and the driving force behind it. Ron?
Annis, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the African American Museum and Library at Oakland for allowing Annis to bring the family to spend this evening with you. Annis is one of my poetic sisters that is extremely powerful, and I'm deeply honored that she would ask me to join the family this evening. The book, Enough Say Their Names, Messages from Ground Zero to the World, took 147 days to complete. I started counting the day I decided to do something to make a difference. That was not on the day that George died. It was a week later. All of my friends and family were talking about the video that had been posted. As a sensitive, as an empath, I was revulsed by the words that I heard describing the 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I decided finally that I had to watch it. I did, and the intensity of the scene leaping from the screen made me physically ill. It made me very angry. I paced back and forth and walked with frustration and wondering how this could be happening in a world that was already so full of anxiety and anger. And then I asked myself the questions. What can I do? What should I do? And why did I need to do anything at all? I decided to begin this project because it all got too personal for me to think that somebody else was going to solve the problem, or that I could live with the negative possibilities and consequences that could arise if I didn't do something by being actively engaged and pushing for change. So on May 25th of last year, death was captured in action. In all honesty, I wonder how many people on a plane to go somewhere to do something when it's inconvenient, costly, or not directly relevant to day-to-day living. I'm guilty. I see so many events that make me weep, and I put a wall around my heart. This time, the wall crumbled, and I got on a plane to Minneapolis, all because of a video captured by a brave young girl. When I saw George die, I saw the young men whom I've coached in the military under the pressure of a knee of death and impunity, its hands on a hip and with a coy smile, grinding deeper and leaning in. This, after coming home from defending the principles of democracy and equality abroad, was what they had to look forward to. I saw victims that were directly related to me, connected, breathless and fading. My daughter, my son, nieces and sisters, calling out hoarsely for mama. George was all of these people and more, and especially those who came before him and died under similar circumstances. George was the times that the lights were in my rear view and I was sitting on the side of the road being stopped in Pocahontas, Arkansas, for example, by someone that looked at like an extra from the Dukes of Hazzard. My emotions transformed from disconnected to making a permanent personal connection with death in a matter of seconds. So 4 days after it got personal, I boarded a plane. I winged my way to Des Moines, and since I couldn't find a flight to Minneapolis, I'm not sure what the deal was with that, but there were no flights going in. They were all pretty much shut down. So I drove in to Ground Zero. In the middle of the night, I began taking photos and talking to protesters. Then, on the following weekend, I made my way to DC to walk around the White House, the demonstration epicenter there. Then onward to Portland, to St. Louis, to further solidify my personal connection with what was happening. When I arrived at these places, I took hundreds of photos of the messages and the brothers and sisters of all colors who were also taking death of innocence intensely personal. When I returned home, I invited other writers who in turn approached friends and supporters to take pictures and offer help. Ultimately, there were 7 more writers besides me, 15 amateur and professional photographers, a graphic artist, and a web designer. So, over 147 days, almost 2 full trimesters, while getting to know George, Brianna, Trayvon, and so many more in deeply personal ways, and with the help of faithful volunteers, enough was born. So we've been taking it, our messages, between the covers of this book extremely personally and taking it to as many people as we can. These writers and photographers are part of the Enough community. I now call them family, and they pick up the phone when one of the family, like Annis, calls to say that we have a chance to share the message of enough. So that, in the simplest terms, is why the book came into existence. That's the genesis. A careful reading of the book will provide deeper insights, and any reader that wants to know about the messages that demand justice and equality at a personal level will find them there. The poems inside will provide stimulus to anyone and everyone that wants to be woke.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much. So the first one that Ron reached out to was Amelie Hill. And Amelie's going to lead off for our reading today. Amelie Rush Hill is a poet, novelist, and artist. She created the cover art for her books and is writing her 5th science fiction novel. She and her husband live in a rural area amidst trees and wildlife, pet dogs, and cats. They currently share their home with his 98-year-old mother, their oldest son, and his daughter. You're going to love hearing what Amelie has written. Go ahead, Amelie.
Thank you, Annis, and thank you for having us here. My first poem uses nature as a metaphor for human interactions and seeks to understand the way human beings fit into the world and interact with each other. Hard edge. The soft contours of nature sweeten the understory of the woods. Tall trees are swaying in the wind, and at their feet are ancient horsetails, a hazy froth amid the shifting shadows, light here, dark there. Trident leaf teasels spike up amid tasseled grasses, mingled with dandelions, tiny daisies, Queen Anne's lace, and the ubiquitous blackberries that climb high into the trees to catch any stray beam of light. In June, the dainty rose-like berry blooms belie the gruesome thorns that grab anything to attain the light, smothering all other things they approach. But even invasive species are more graceful than the hard margins of human interactions and the sharp edges of man-made structure. How did a species that developed on such an Edenic world come to be so harsh, intractable, and violent? Of course, it can be said that nature is violent, but she does not vent her fury on a particular man because of his heritage or appearance. Only other men do that as their hard edges cut deep into soft skin, into yielding flesh to maim and control, to punish and deliberately wound. No tree ever fell to the ground with intent to damage the smaller plants beneath, nor does a river flood to willfully wash away farms or drown animals. A rose has thorns to protect itself, not to inflict pain on any specific creature. And a honeybee does not sting without giving her own life. Only a man would consider a thorn or stinger to be a preemptive weapon. And only a man would think of chaining his brothers, believing he could own them, exploit them, because he thought they were subordinate. Only man draws hard lines to mark the limits of his property and uses that as an excuse to abuse a man or a child, anyone he decided he doesn't like, not because he knew them to be bad, but because he perceived them to be different from himself, and perhaps simply to give himself a way to pretend he is superior. We spend so much time drawing lines, squaring corners, straight and rigid, unmovable, precise, unforgiving. And what do we get for it besides hard edges and grim shadows of mine and yours, of mine, not yours, of territory to defend, to fight and kill for? We've chosen to believe that lines are more important than lives, and categories are the most salient aspects of relationships with other people. The rigid lines of men are hard to breach, and harder still to change, to amend and correct, especially after hundreds and more years of offense, of wickedness, and minds hard set in what was, but should no longer be, the concrete of history, cast in perfidious molds made out of bent and tortured lives. New templates are required now to blur those lines, to wrap hard edges in soft velvet, in the flutter of hummingbird wings, in the tender melodies of love. I have another short poem. This one's kind of funny because I intended for it to be in the book, but my computer ate it. so I wrote this shorter vision, but then it was too late. It's called Don't Go Back to Sleep. Don't go back to sleep. You've awakened, but that's not enough. Not yet. Not until it's better, until things have changed, until evolution has proceeded and succeeded, until you have manifested the change, embodied the changes, until you know it in your bones. Don't go back to sleep. Don't pretend it's over when the riots stop, when justice takes over, when there is quiet again. That doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean you get to go back to sleep, to ignore what else needs to be done until you remember what it was, but can't find it anymore. You have to keep taking a step forward, one and then another, until it's done, until it's time to rest, until we can all rest in peace, in safety, in serenity, but it's not time yet. No, there's still a lot of work to do. And until it's finished, don't go back to sleep. Don't forget what needs to be done. The healing hasn't begun, not yet. So don't go back to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. It was a little bit funny, but true. um, our next reader for reader poet today is Lawrence Diggs. Lawrence believes that many critical subjects are left unsolved because there are not enough forums to wrestle with them in a safe environment. Lawrence uses an entertaining, interactive approach to tackle difficult subjects. He also uses poetry to help people wrestle with complex subjects nationally and internationally on many forums. So you are in for a treat to hear Lawrence Diggs. Lawrence?
Thank you very much, Ernest. And I'd like to thank the museum for having us, and I hope that this will be of use to all of the people who are participating today. Black lives matter. All lives didn't matter until someone said, Black lives matter. Suddenly and surprisingly, all lives matter. No one said all lives matter when unarmed Black people were gunned down by police for years. No one said all lives matter when a child was gunned down while playing with a toy gun. No one said all lives matter when the water was poisoned in Flint, Michigan. No one said all lives matter when Black kids were crippled by substandard education. No one said all lives matter when Black people were lynched and the crimes covered up. No one said all lives matter when Black people were redlined out of decent housing. No one said all lives matter when Black people were marginalized into the lowest paying jobs and then paid the lowest wages. If the people who suddenly have discovered that all lives matter had discovered this before someone said Black lives matter, it would have had a whole different meaning. It would have called attention to the fact that some members of our society were being treated as though their lives didn't matter. It would have been inclusive. It would have said, we need to make sure every life is protected. It would have been pro-life. But now it sounds fake. It sounds like an attempt to silence the cry that Black lives matter. It sounds like an objection to anyone suggesting that Black lives matter. It sounds like a denial that Black lives matter. It sounds like an attempt to put lipstick on a racist pig. If all lives matter to those who say it, then they need to live it. They need to make sure they are as outraged over an injustice to anyone as they are to an injustice to their friends and family. They need to vote like it. They need to protest like it. They need to worship like it. They need to develop relationships like it. Absent that, I call fake. I call racism. I call hypocrite. I call anti-human. And I will just raise my voice louder to say Black Lives Matter, to drown out that fake and racist retort of all lives matter.
Thank you, Lawrence. So powerful. Appreciate you. Our next reader today is Marilyn Johnston. Marilyn is a recipient of a Literary Arts Fellowship for Writers and winner of the Donna J. Stone National Literary Award for Poetry. The author of 2 collections of poetry, Red Dust Rising, 2004, about her family's recovery from war, and Beyond Igniting in 2020. She teaches creative writing as part of the Artists in the Schools program, primarily working with incarcerated youth. Thank you, Marilyn. We're ready for you.
Thank you, Annis. And it's so great to be here, and your beautiful building. I wish we were there in person. Thank you for coming, those of you who are on the Zoom. I'd like to read 2 short poems. The first one is written from the account of the pain and frustration that has shot through this country and the price that we pay for not understanding each other's stories. It's called What Matters. We left the premises weeks ago, the day the belching stacks stopped and the whistle ceased, bringing the men and us few women down to the yard to click in and clock out, hundreds of us at a time with our lunch pails and our dignity tied in a knot, boots trudging into a day without sunshine on either side of our shifts. With news of the furlough, we filed out and went home, even those of us who barely still had one, and no one to listen as the virus hit and the unemployment funds too were lost in a vacuous space. It was in the night I remembered we'd left him behind in the shuffle of leaving. We'd worked like robots that last week on the line, took turns on break, creating a monument which we all carved in stone, left over in the supply yard. Hope, the likeness of his head gazing above the stacks, his eyes, head tipped to heaven. Regret for all we'd lost. I had to say goodbye to this man. No knee now to hold him fast. Not a day goes by when I haven't walked back there and looked up, trying to see what he sees. And today, once again, I am swept into the march as it turns the corner, and we chant in unison for Black Lives Matter, and we chant for all of us not embraced by the village, fearing we will need to burn it down to feel its warmth. And the second poem is the real metaphorical part of this anthology, that these small poems are like throwing stones that it will take to bring us to our window and see beyond our own small yards. The poem is called I'm Sorry. I'm sorry for all the things I did or didn't, for all that I said too muted or too much, or to those too closed down to hear, for the things I thought or didn't feel were important, or how I'd marched or feigned indifference with my calloused ear. For the time I praised myself as the white girl, thinking I understood, and now I know I knew nothing. For mouthing the word change, yet came up empty-handed, too slow to shout my anguish for those still struggling to breathe. Yet I call out, as we all must in the time that's still left, shouting these words as a mantra. I must bend a knee, grab a pen, mark a ballot. I must say enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. The person that follows you, we've had so many powerful messages here. This will be from Annis Cassels. Let me tell you about her. She's a writer, a life coach, a career teacher, and published her first poetry collection, You Can't Have It All, in 2019, and is working on her second collection. A native of Detroit, Annis lives half-time in California and in Oregon, where she conducts memoir writing classes for senior adults. She loves connecting with people and aims to continue making a difference in today's world. And she does every time she opens her mouth and speaks. Annis.
Oh, Ron, thank you so much. This poem, as Ron said, I'm a career teacher. And so for many years, I taught middle school. So when I saw that crushing video of George Floyd being killed by that police officer on his neck, I thought about Darnella Frazier, the young woman who took that video. And I worried about her and the trauma that she is going to, would be, experiencing. I also thought about the legacy that she's leaving and how she is making such a difference and change. And so this poem is really a tribute to Darnella. And our youth shall lead us. It should have been a routine trip. It should have been peaceful, calm, this girl going to the store with her cousin. Except in the street right before her, a Minneapolis PD cop knelt on George Floyd's neck. To this smartphone era teen, videos were second nature, her camera always within reach. Her hands, her brain kicked in an almost automatic response when an incident goes down. A second cop stood guard, kept bystanders at bay. 4 more knees scored into Floyd's spine. George Perry Floyd, an unarmed Black man, hands cuffed behind his back, pled for mercy, wheezed, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." Called to his mama, summoned his mama, gasped for his mama. A young Black girl documented the murder. As police drained Floyd's body of life, images the world cannot ignore of these 8 minutes and 46 seconds ignited a movement, a revolution, thundered a call to action, detonated the spark to dismantle the atrocities of policing in this country, of injustice under the law, of racism, latent, overt, systemic. This schoolgirl, Darnella Frazier, shifted the point of view, awoke our collective consciousness, produced a catalyst for change, change in America's culture, attitudes, actions. America's history, her legacy. 17-year-old Darnella Frazier. Thank you. Sorry, dropped my papers. Our next person up today is singer, songwriter, playwright Annie Benjamin. Annie is based in Texas. Her music has been featured in films and documentaries. As a human committed to social justice, she performs in schools, at demonstrations, and in front of civic and business leaders. She believes passionately that the arts have the power to heal hearts and minds while inspiring to bring about social change. She also does a weekly Facebook Live concert that is really wonderful to see. So Annie, take it away.
Thank you so much, Janice. Yeah, I know you tune in, and it's really funny because sometimes I'll throw everybody a curveball with a song that I'll do. I'm gonna play a song that I wrote for y'all, and I wrote this song. Actually, wrote this song back in 2001, but it was inspired by a poem written by Langston Hughes in 1926 called "I Too," and I'm gonna recite that poem very quickly for y'all before I play my song. Here's Langston Hughes' poem, "I Too." I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at that table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, "Eat in the kitchen." Then, beside, they'll see how beautiful we are and be ashamed. I too am America. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. The volume just got turned up. My sound guy just came in, so hopefully that'll help. All right, here we go. When I die and leave my body to this earth, some may cry or tell jokes at my expense for what it's worth. I just hope you don't wear black, 'cause my favorite color's green. Take the flowers home with you and put them up there on your supper table for everyone to see. 'Cause I'm going to a kitchen in the sky, past the black-eyed peas and apple pie. There's never a mouth that's empty. Heaven, there's plenty of food to be found. And lots of love to go around. Now I like to think that heaven's just a great big table, and there's always room for one more chair. No one's gotta fight for the best seat, 'cause the Almighty's everywhere. Oh, I'm going to a kitchen in the sky, past the black-eyed peas and apple pie. There's never a mouth that's empty. In heaven, there's plenty of food to be found. And lots of love to go around. Now in heaven, everybody's got something important to say. An old woman's sigh, a child's simple words. Everybody's voice is equal. Everybody's heard. Oh, I'm going to a kitchen in the sky, past some black-eyed peas and apple pie. There's never a mouth that's empty. In heaven, there's plenty of food to be found. And lots of love to go around. And if it's not your stomach that you need to feed, just sit down at heaven's table. You'll find what you need. Oh, yeah. So when I die, another soul is gonna take my seat. Please make sure there's a place at your table with a lot of good things to eat. 'Cause I'm going to a kitchen in the sky, past the black-eyed peas and apple pie. There's never a mouth that's empty. In heaven, there's plenty of food to be found. And there's lots of love to go around and around. Oh, there's lots of love to be found. You know there is. And there's this great big table up there just waiting for you and me. And you know what? Nobody has to do the dishes.
Ah,
Thank you
that's,
so much to the museum for having us all. This is a real joy, and just delightful to be here.
thank you so much, Annie. We love it when your music comes in. Appreciate you. Our next poet is Anke Hodenpyle. Anke is a poet of Indonesian and Dutch heritage. She writes about identity, cultural, excuse me. She writes about identity, cultural memory, loss, and transformation. On occasion, she is known to kayak, read compulsively, eat junk food, hike and sing at the thresholds of her life. Her favorite activity is to appear to be burning calories on her new electric bicycle. Anke, you're on.
Is our sister muted?
Anke, you were muted, so start again, please, dear heart.
Oh, all those wonderful words.
You've got the words.
I'd like to thank you, Annis and Ron and the museum for making this possible, for having us have the opportunity to do something better than what we've been doing. So I'd like to share with you how I came to this poem I'm about to share. I'm the light-skinned one in my family. Being biracial, I grew up with a rainbow of skin colors. My mother assured me in the most loving way that I was the lucky one because I was the light, almost white one. She meant by that I would not be stopped before entering a restaurant, putting my hand to assure the proprietors that we were acceptable to him, which this had happened to us growing up. She meant when I would move into a neighborhood on my own, I would not be told to go back to where I came from, as I was with my family. She meant I would not be detained at the border, as all my siblings and parents have been. She meant I would not be asked to eat spoiled food because, after all, my people are lucky to get anything. After all, don't we just eat out of garbage cans anyway? These and more were words we endured as a family. But once I left home, I was no longer accosted in this way. My mother was right. Life is easier for me than my darker skinned brothers, sister, and parent. It was moments like these that inspired me to write this poem, but mostly I wanted to dive deep into my own privilege, that easier life my mother made sure I understood. I wanted to be reminded of my implicit bias when I shop at a store and don't see skin products or hosiery for darker skins, or when my Black friends are just one or two in a room filled with lighter skinned people. My bias when walking down the street and I look down instead of up to see my Black brothers and sisters' faces. I wanted to be challenged by my own shame, quietly walking with me as an Indo. This poem challenges us, challenges me to look up, to see the face, to celebrate the color. So let me share with you my poem titled Talking to Privilege. Oh, privilege, I should not wear you like a favorite sweater, hanging on that brass hook, ready for that next imagined chill. You are easy comfort. I should heed your frayed seams and shabby demeanor, toss you into the trash, naive threads, thick with benighted yarns, a graceless fashion. Unworthy. You think I do not try to scrub the stained fun into your fabric? You hand-me-down hanging on the clothesline of fragility, generations old? No, it is not enough to wash and then wear. No, I need to disinherit your sympathy, your deception, your delusions. No, privilege, you can no longer have my body to carry your story. I am no longer your silver-haired poser. Oh, privilege, you can no longer use my skin to carry your story.
Yeah.
Anka, thank you so much. That's a deep look, a very deep look. Thank you. Next, we have Ronald Montgomery returning to us. Ron is a father, writer, activist, teacher, and coach. In his numerous roles, he views himself as an avid student of the human condition. Having lived and worked in several countries, he draws on multicultural experiences to augment his understanding of the skills needed to build interpersonal bridges that foster a sense of global family. His writings stress the need for equality, justice, compassion, and love as the cornerstones for healthy communities. Back again with us, the originator of Enough Say Their Names, Ron Montgomery.
Annis, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, and I'd like to read a poem to you, or share a poem with you. And it's about things that we take for granted. I take so much for granted. There's always enough air for this and the next breath. And I breathe with no gratitude for each one, and I have enjoyed during the course of the day or during the night when I lay unaware. 8 minutes and 46 seconds of struggling to expand, compress, and suck in with difficulty has made millions of people aware of every breath when they hear the name George Floyd. This poem is entitled, Let Me Breathe. When I breathe, I don't ask, is there another breath for me? I am focused on the present. That is sufficient, this breath. An expanding rib cage, a diaphragm pulling and relaxing, and forgetfulness as I concentrate on just being in this moment before my next exertion. But no planning is required, and I look to the next breath's future. No more. Mama, help me. Help me to breathe. With each new day, I do not ask, will this be my last sunrise that I see? I think about my normal, just going about and doing mundane things. No hero plans or lofty goals other than to be alive and enjoy. Thinking about my children, my family, and hope for a tomorrow, all part of me. But no planning is required as I inhale, looking to brighter days without sorrow. Mama, help me. Help me breathe. When I stop in the park at lunch, I don't ask, is this my last meal? I feed the pigeons, I talk to friends, I say a quiet prayer known to God and to me. Standing, I gather belongings and grateful that all I've been given, satisfied and having more than enough, I continue my day. And no planning is required as I sniff the goodness of food trucks along the way. Mama, help me, please. Help me breathe. With no desire for extravagance, I don't ask to be adored by the world, just a humble few. Nobody's hero, just a regular George, Ayana, Trayvon, every day. It's true. No threat to anyone. Not making a fuss, just pushing on through. I am loved, I feel, and I am embraced. And holding on for dear life, being tied to this moment, and on the way home, if I could wish for one thing, I'd want to be you. Mama, help me. Mama, help me, please. Lift me, hold me, take me. I just want to breathe. Thanks, Angus.
Thank you, Ron. We all just want to breathe, don't we? Yep, that's for sure. That's for sure. So, everyone, that concludes our poets for now, and we're going to show a few slides from the book so you can get a feel of the book and see some pictures that go with it. And I'm going to share my screen in a moment. And Ron is going to interject a little bit from time to time to give us some information about the slides, because he was one of the primary photographers. So Ron, just let me know when you want me to pause a little bit longer.
Well, I will, yeah. Why don't you stop there for 1 second? You know, I called the book, I said it was Messages from Ground Zero. Ground Zero, from my perspective, was Minneapolis and the place where George died. But it could just as well have been Louisville. It could have been Pittsburgh. It could have been Baltimore. It could have been any of the places where people have died unjustly. And so that was the kind of the origin of that idea and that subtitle. Here we're looking at pictures that were taken in Washington, D.C. I actually visited Washington. It wasn't planned, but it was a day that 45 was in Tulsa. And so being out of town, it was probably a very good day to be in Washington, D.C. Here we're walking around, in the general area around Washington, around the White House. And it was kind of interesting. In D.C., there was no graffiti all over the place. Everything was right around the White House. That should give us an indication of who the messages were for. Come on, that's good. And all of the folks that, we say their names were everywhere. Names that I'd never heard of. And that's, as we put the names in the back of the book, you'll notice that there are quite a few, but they're not enough, and they're not all. Because even as we print the book and share the messages, the names keep getting added to the list. And I fear that the list will never end, but it has to. And these are just some of the names and pictures that were around the White House. Again, this is in DC. This is in Dallas. We had so many great photographers who volunteered to provide us with photographs on places where we just weren't available to visit. And this is one of them, the umbrellas. And it was celebrating, not celebrating, but more like just revisiting the fact that so many have died and their names are on those umbrellas. We remember them, we say their names. All right, Annis, can you back up one?
Sure.
There are a number of photos that you will not see in the book because frankly, they were a bit horrific. This one is in Minneapolis. Nick Peters actually works for Target. Target was one of the places that burned on the first few nights. But the vibe, the feeling, the anxiety, the fear, the frustration, the anger in Minneapolis was palatable. It was tangible. It was, I could feel it as I walked down the streets. And the streets, I mean, literally walking down University Boulevard to the Capitol building. I'm talking about miles and miles of messages that we just couldn't get in the book. There were just too many of them. I literally came away from Minneapolis with thousands. Washington, D.C. Here we go again. And you'll see in the book, there are literally, the pictures come from all over the world. If you look closely, you'll see some from Australia even that were given to us to use. And the messages, it didn't matter how far away we went, the messages were exactly the same. And the sad part about it is, when I did the same thing in 2014, 2015, Michael Brown, the messages were exactly the same. And so you wonder, is anybody listening? The giant is awake and will not go back to sleep. This woman sitting on the bench, this will be the last statement I'm going to make, Annis.
Okay.
Was I call her my angel. As this, she's at the White House. She's right outside the gates of the White House, and she was sitting there. She was sleeping, and I walked past her, and in a sense of guilt, with my hand in my pocket, fingering a $20 bill, I stopped and I backed up, and I thought, what am I going to do with this? I want to go and buy a cup of coffee, you know. And I figured I would give the money to her. And I stopped short of her and I said, sister, sister. And she woke up and she looked at me and gave me this angelic smile. And I pulled my hand out of my pocket. I said, I really don't have anything to do with this, but I thought you might be able to use it. And she looked at me, smiled, and said, I don't need it. You keep it. I said, but I'm not, I don't really need it. And she says, no, I have everything that I need. And I said, well, what can I do for you? She says, pray for me. And she says, and I will pray for you. And she kept this smile on her face, and she was one of God's best that day. And she gave me a lesson in humility and indomitable spirit for a day in Washington, D.C.
That's a beautiful story, Ron. And I know it touched you because you have a poem in the book about her, don't you?
I do. All right, I said I wasn't going to say anything else. I lied, Annis. This picture. All right, so if you look here, you'll see, if you look real closely, you'll see probably 75% of the people on their knees here are young people and their parents and their teachers and police. And it was wonderful. And we prayed and we called out the names. And it was a joy. I asked this mother and daughter if they mind if I took their picture, and they were more than happy to pose for a picture. And so there it is. And that was after the, you'll notice that Black Lives Matter is painted on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the end of the street is Black Lives Matter Boulevard now, right? So it was a wonderful day and was followed up by Portland, St. Louis, Chicago. Black lives do matter, and the messages are strong.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vita, we are at our end point for now before the
Okay.
Q&A. And
Yes,
so I'll turn it over to you.
thank you. Thank you so much. I want to say before we go into Q&A, I just want to express my sincere thank you to all of you. I have experienced this hour and a half, different emotions through you, through your works. And I'm sure everyone that's listening has experienced as well. The works are so thought provoking, and it makes you wonder, where do we go from here? Everyone that I talk with regarding the George Floyd murder trial, the verdict, people were ecstatic and happy. That is a step forward. But what is it going to take to keep us from taking steps backward? That is something that is still a question. So now I'm going to make sure my librarian takes off the recording. I want to go into the Q&A. I want everyone to express how you're feeling, share your thoughts, and not to be hindered knowing that you're being recorded. So Danielle, please take us off of recording.